Welcome to Uncovering Spirituality, where we embark on a journey of exploration and discovery into consciousness, energy, and the spirit world. Join us as we delve into the mysteries of spirituality and uncover the universal truths that connect us all. Hello, I'm Kathy Upper, founder of Spiritual Niagara. I'm also the consulting visionary and podcast host for Spiritual Canada, and this is Uncovering Spirituality. Joining me today is Marilyn Kaufman, owner of the business You Are a Soul. Marilyn is a certified hypnotherapist in London, Ontario, and has been specializing in regression therapy for over 17 years. She's also been a member of Spiritual Niagara and now Spiritual Canada for over 10 years. She's studied with many trailblazers of this work in the United States and Canada. By sharing her insights, Marilyn helps others who may be awakening, who are searching for meaning in their lives and want to connect with their spirit guides to realize their true purpose in life. Incorporating past life and between life regression, spirit guide contact, and neuro-linguistic programming with her energy work, Marilyn offers a unique experience, therapy for the soul. Her recent book, Lifetimes, she shares her personal experience and fascinating examples of others' regressions that will help you understand that death is not a tragic ending, but a way that you plan to return home. You can read more about her and her work at youareasoul.ca. Welcome, Marilyn, and thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to talk, obviously, about past life regression, but I would really like to start with just putting a plug in for your book, Lifetimes. So people can get this on Amazon. I really enjoyed reading this book, and I just looked at it again before we were meeting today. The other thing that I'd like to just talk about is the quote that you have on there too. Lifetimes, exploring your past life and life between lives can empower you to live the life you were meant to live. I love that.
Thank you. I think really what it means is that when you do this work, you find out what your purpose is. What did you plan to accomplish in this life before you were born, as we all did?
Yeah. So what your original plan was?
Exactly. Yeah. And I found out from doing this work that this is what I planned to do. This was one of my spiritual contracts, was to get involved in this work and do it. And as you read in the very beginning of the book, I didn't know that. I kind of fell into it or got pushed into it by my guides, who maybe I was stalling or something. And I just went through that spontaneous past life, and it just opened me up to it.
Yeah. And previous to that, you weren't aware of past life stuff or?
Oh, I was, but was I committed to it? You know, it wasn't an absolute belief as it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the experience of it does it, right?
Right. And the fact that it was a traumatic experience, I'll just talk about it for a minute. I was doing energy work at the Transformational Art College in Toronto, and we were working on an anxiety, something that gave us anxiety by doing tapping. And so I had 3 daughters, and they were all living away from me. And one was in Ottawa and 2 were in Montreal while I was in Grimsby. And the youngest one was modeling. I think she was only like 19 at the time. And she was going to model with an agency I knew nothing about. She wanted to go to Las Vegas to do this. And I was worried about it.
Yeah.
So that's what I was working on, tapping. And as the anxiety was supposed to decrease, mine was increasing. And then I started to hyperventilate. Anyway, long story short, I went into this spontaneous past life. My teacher didn't know how to handle it. She got me calmed down. I was a healer in 18th century Germany, and I was being accused by a mob. And they took my baby, who was the same spirit as my youngest daughter, and burned her in a fire. So
Ooh.
it was pretty traumatic. I don't let people have traumatic experiences. Like if they go into anything, I let them come out or I take them out if they want to come out as soon as possible, because I don't believe you need to re-experience that kind of fear
Right.
in doing past life work. But
Yeah.
my teacher didn't know that. So, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to get in and study it, because I didn't believe you need to understand the past life and how they affect your life, but you don't need to re-experience that fear, because it was pretty traumatic. And here I am in front of a class of students, right? Not knowing
Yeah.
what was going on, but I was crying and at one point actually screaming. So, long story short, I took this course in energy psychology and worked through it. And you learn to forgive the people who, I was later hung as a witch. And you learn
Wow.
to work through this and to actually forgive the people. And it doesn't have that effect on you anymore. Understanding the cause eliminates the effects in your current life. And that's part of the work that's done in regression work.
Yeah. 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 Now, in your book, which I love the way that you wrote it, because you take different kind of subjects and
Mhm.
then you give examples of people, that have done past life regression, like what they experienced and what they learned from it. I
I
think that's
tried
such a
to
neat
work it.
way you set that up.
Thank you. I tried to work on principles. So, like, there's a chapter on forgiveness and a chapter on karma, and I divided them: what you can learn in past life regression, what you can learn in between life regression, and then some of the things that just transpire. Like, some people are healed, and some people want to know about their families, their soul groups, and another chapter goes into spiritual evolution, because I believe that's why we do this. That's why we keep coming back to evolve as not just as humans, but as spirits. Um, and then some people start channeling, which is just really cool when their spirit guides come through them and they just start channeling and they get answers to the questions. So we actually do contact, spirit contact. So it's not just regression. In any typical session, we would go through 3 past lives. And you get glimpses of those lives. You get what you need to learn from those lives and how they affect your personal life today, your current life, your current incarnation. But then we call in your spirit guides, and that's where you get the answers. I love the beauty of calling in your spirit guides, because it puts those lives together. It helps you understand. They actually help you understand that. And then you get an answer to all your questions. Like, what is your purpose in life? Why did you go to those particular past lives? It all works out so beautifully.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get into like what that experience is like, when you do a regression. So do a lot of times people, they're coming to you with kind of a question or something's going on in their life that they want to better understand. Is that
Right.
kind of how it starts?
Yeah. And sometimes they just come out of curiosity. So the whole reason I wrote the book was because when I do a show, like the shows we have with Spiritual Niagara, where we have people come into the shows and they'll stop and talk to me and they said, well, I'm really interested in past lives, but I don't know much about it, or I don't know what it can do for me. So that's what the book is for. It explains all the things that you can learn. And although all the regressions that I do are different, they have kind of a process. So when someone comes, we usually talk for a half an hour to an hour. And when we're talking, it helps them to become more comfortable with me as well. When we're talking, I kind of divide what's best to research in a past life and what's best to talk to your spirit guides about. So then when we, get all that, I explain the process to them and how it works, because people perceive their past lives in different ways. Some people see it like a movie, and that's great because they're very trusting. So that's like clairvoyance. And some people will hear things, clairaudience, music, talking, sounds. Some people will feel things like in a past life. If, say, you got hit over the head, you might feel a little pressure on your head. I don't let you feel pain because, or that extreme fear type emotion. So that's clairsentience. But with clairsentience comes your emotions. And that's how I like to say, you're not making it up, because, some people will cry, and that's okay, because then they understand. And there's claircognizance. So when I have a past life regression, when I was doing my training, I don't see it like a movie or like a dream. I get a visual, but with that visual comes that download or that complete understanding. And, often it's all three, all four. One of those traits are usually dominant. One of those clairs are usually dominant, but you pay attention to everything. People see it like they are observing the situation or the memory. And sometimes it's like they're looking through their eyes, like they're actually there and experiencing it. So, I just work with people to help them understand how they are receiving their memories or experiencing their memories. And once I know they're trusting, then I can take them backwards or forwards in that life. I can take, so younger or older, depending on where they first start out. And then I, take them out of that life and onto another one. And then we raise their vibration, because past life is all done with the subconscious mind. When we want to call in their spirit guides, we work with superconscious mind, which is another way of saying your higher self. And they connect with their spirit guides and get all the answers to their questions and everything. And I really think that's the most beautiful part, because I don't want to give everything away, because I want people to come without a lot of preconceived ideas. But there's a lot of healing that happens in that part. And I'll just specifically ask their guides to give them a healing if they don't even know that that's a possibility, right? I'll just say, can we heal this? And they get healings, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah. So how long usually is a session? And how do you bring people into that subconscious mind? Like, how do you get them there?
Okay. I work through hypnosis. And there's many different types of hypnosis. Like I do NLP, and you can just put someone in a soft trance in like a minute, just through conversation. They don't even know that they're going into trance. But for regression, it's usually about 20 minutes, because the deeper you go, the better experience you're going to have. You want to go somewhere between that alpha and theta conscious level.
Yeah, brainwaves. Yeah.
Right, brainwaves. And the deeper you go, the easier it's going to be. So I take the time. So a typical session lasts anywhere between 2.5 and 3 hours. I've had them go as long as 4 hours. I don't put a time limit on it. When someone's talking to spirit, you can't say, sorry, time's up. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So I only really plan to have one a day. Sometimes I do groups and so I'll do 3 or 4 a day. But when I take appointments, it's usually just 1 a day.
Yeah. Now you said groups. Can you do more than one person at a time?
Yeah.
Oh,
So I
okay.
have done group regressions often, and that gives you a taste because you can't work with someone one-on-one. You can't work with whatever they're remembering. So it's just letting them know that they can do the work, maybe, helping them with the desire to come for a one-on-one experience.
Okay.
When there's one-on-one, then you can call in the spirit guides and get the answers and understand how their lives affect them. But a group is a great way to do it. But when I was referring to a group before, I might do someone has me to their house and they have a couple friends, so I'll do one at a time, and then that's when I do like maybe 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So a past life regression, then you said you could go possibly into 3 past lives
We
that
usually work
person's
with 3.
experienced. And would that be when they're looking at the 3 past lives, would it be, based on a certain subject, or does
Yes,
that
and
tend?
that's a lot about what we talk about, because some people come in knowing exactly what they want,
Right.
and some people don't. They might know what they want, one to explore in one past life. But I always say, like, often it's people, like people in their family, their immediate family, um, someone who they've connected with immediately, and like, I feel like I've known you all my life type thing. Or sometimes they can't connect with someone. There's so many different ways, and because I direct them back to a specific past life, right? That's why we try to narrow it down to what are their interests. um Sometimes they go somewhere and it's like, I feel like, the deja vu, I feel like I've been here before. I know if I turn that corner there's going to be a church, and sure enough there is. So that piques their interest. Or some things they just have, like this, almost like an obsession with it. Like they study ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is a big one. Atlantis is a big one. Have I ever been a healer? A lot of men come and they want to know if they've ever been in the military, like a military leader or a soldier. Um, there's so many times, and if people just can't come up with some, I like to take them to the most significant past life to their current life they're now living, because that helps answer some questions. Like, why do I do this? Or why am I like that? Or things. And
Yeah.
most recently, I mean, they're not always about past lives, because, we are living all these lives simultaneously. And that's a whole, a whole rabbit hole I don't want to go into right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's future lives, and I've done future life progressions. We don't really call it regression, we call it a
Oh,
progression.
really?
Yeah. And then there's what's coming through so much lately is star seeds coming through, lifetimes on other planets. So it's not just past lives on Earth, right? It's lifetimes on other planets. um, but then, why did I come? Why am I living in this body? This body has so many oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Limitations. When I'm
Mm.
used to being, or they get into spirit and they don't have a body. I ask them if they're male or female, and they'll say, I don't know. And, like, and as we research it further, they're not even in a human body. So they're in spirit form.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you have
That's
to
the
be
other
ready.
thing I want to
You have
ask
to be
about.
ready for anything.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about between life, right? Because a lot of people, they know what past life you're looking at, lives that you may have lived, but um, tell us about like what between life is.
Okay, so between life regression is the work basically of Michael Newton, um, who started it in the 1990s. And what you do is you start with one past life. He did the most recent past life. I like to go to the most significant past life, to your current life that you're now living. And we explore that past life, and I take you to the last day of that life, to when your spirit leaves your body. So again, we do this without pain and without fear, but when your spirit leaves your body, then you can look down and see your body, your human body that has deceased. You can see who's around you and everything. And then I take them towards the light, and they're returning home, as we've done after every reincarnation, and our body is no longer alive. We return home to spirit world. I call it spirit world. There's many different names for it. I call it spirit world. And your guides come in to greet you and take you to what you need to do. Now, at that point, they kind of take over because they know what's best for your highest good. And they will take you to different places. So there's different things you can experience. But I will also, interject a little bit, saying that, oh, maybe they would like to go to the Akashic records. But it often starts with a healing. If that lifetime was, or died tragically, or was a very sad life, you go to a healing, and they're nice. Sometimes they're gardens. One time it was a pool of water. Sometimes it's lights that heal, but I find it's often a garden. And then after that, I'm kind of just sitting back, and I let them stay as long as they need to in the garden. And then their guides, I might say, well, do your guides want to take you anywhere else? And they could go to the Akashic records. So I went to the Akashic records, and that was just unbelievable. Somehow it's a record of all your lives that you've ever lived or will live. And I opened the book, and there wasn't really words on the book. It was memories, right? It's all kind of just comes to you. And it was some work that I needed to work on. And it's all in my book, my earthly book. um, and from there you can go on. So you can learn things like, you can meet your soul group, who are the people that you reincarnate with the most. Like maybe it's your immediate family right now, maybe it's that close friend. And you can see how you did the pre-life planning. So I believe, and in this work, that you plan the life you come to. You find, the people who are going to be your parents, who are going to be your siblings, who are you going to be your spouses. And you set up not everything that happens in your life, but you set up certain things based on what you need to learn, what experiences you need to grow as a spirit. So maybe it was something you learned about in the Akashic records. Maybe it was a life review that you had with a council of elders who you can go and meet with. And everything's done with love. There's no judgment, there's no fear. You kind of decide, I want to work on this. So
so you find
just try to
spirit
think of,
doesn't define that. Like you choose that yourself.
right, what you want to accomplish. And that's what we call our life purpose, right? So
Right.
we find out what our life purpose is, and it's just so neat. Like, plus we also have callings. We have callings when we are in pure spirit form. We have work to do. We're not just sitting there watching what we're doing here on earth. We're also evolving as spirit. And we incarnate on earth to evolve to a higher level, because when you're in spirit, you don't have that duality. You don't have the pain or, the struggles which you have set up as spirit. But so we also have callings. And I remember so well when I did my first between life, I wanted to know what my calling was. And I saw myself receiving prayers from people on earth. and they came kind of as light beams, and I would somehow do something with these and send it back. So send it back as messages or nudges or pushes or whatever, or just to respond to those prayers. It was really beautiful.
So you were sending messages back to people that were currently in life form from the spirit world? Wow,
Right.
that's interesting.
Yeah. And I've read other people who have there was one particular case where a woman worked with children who were being abused. And sometimes when children on earth are being abused, they leave their bodies. Their spirit leaves their bodies. So she was there to work with them while their physical body was being abused.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. I just got full chills on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else can you do in life? I think what's neat, what's really good to understand is when you're planning these experiences to go through in your human incarnation, you might need to learn something that's not going to be easy to learn. And so that's why we have struggles. That's why we have, experiences that may not be easy to go through, but that's where we learn. That's where we do our best learning. Well, we have not just planned that experience, we have planned people who maybe we don't like on earth, who we feel have offended us or done something to us. We may have that, they may be one of our closest people in our soul groups who decide to come in and be the villain of life, of your life, to help you grow, because it's something you need to help you grow. So we don't just plan a hard experience, we also plan who's going to be there to get us in that experience, who's going to be there to help us out of that, help us heal in that life. Or, we don't just plan the bad things, we also plan the good things. Who's going to be our children? Who's going to be our spouses?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
just so much to it.
And a soul group. So those, from what I understand, those are people or souls that you reincarnate with, almost every lifetime, right?
No, and maybe not almost, but often. So what I like to tell people is, in a regression, I'll say, is there anyone you recognize from your current life? If you see them well enough to see their eyes, look in their eyes, that's the window to the soul. But it's an automatic thing. It just happens. You don't try to make it happen. But if it's your wife in this life, say you're a man and you want to know it's your wife in this life, she may be your grandmother, and you could be a female in a past life. So you're not recognizing the body in that past life, you're recognizing the soul. And that's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I remember, well, I did a past life regression with you many years ago now. But I remember I experienced the feeling that my mother was my husband in a past life. So, and it was so clear to me, like it was absolutely true.
Right. Because when you're in that state of awareness, you can recognize things like that. And sometimes we do recognize things, but we don't understand why or how, or sometimes we don't believe them, right? It's just, but when you get that intuitive hit, it's very neat. But in a regression, because you're not in an ego state, you're connected to your subconscious mind, that realization is a lot easier. Or recognition, realization.
Yeah, because you don't have the judgmental part of you saying, "Oh, that's not possible," or
Which
yeah.
is, and so that's one thing that you really have to leave your ego behind. You have to let your ego take a back seat in this work, because your ego's, fearful and analytical and say, oh, you're making that up. But if you can get beyond that, and most people do, then it's great. Then you have a great regression.
Yeah. 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 Neat. Yeah, a lot of
So
people aren't familiar with like the between life stuff. Like they've heard of past life, but it's interesting that you do that. Like well, I guess it depends on the person too. I guess if that's kind of what they needed in their session. But I remember with my the experience that I had with you, um, we were kind of sitting. There was other souls, and we all looked exactly alike. We didn't have a face. We were like a light body,
right,
and we were sitting in a circle, and there was this light, like a ball of light or something in the middle, kind of like, you would be sitting around a fire sort of thing. And we were all getting energy from that ball. And it was like you said, you go through a healing. We were all kind of being healed.
lovely, lovely. So yeah, and healings happen in so many other ways. I like that. I don't remember that experience, but it was a really beautiful way to visualize it.
Yeah, and the funny thing to me was that like none of us, we all looked the same. Like we actually didn't have a face. We were just kind of like
Spirit.
yeah, but
You
we
were
were like
spirit. Yeah.
human form. Like there was a head. We were all wearing this blue robe, which was kind of interesting. And the head was kind of like a glowing yellow, I guess. But yeah, there was no we were all the same. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there was no difference.
Right. It's
Yeah,
kind
which was kind of
of,
interesting.
I often thought if we saw ourselves as pure spirit and not as humans, wouldn't wouldn't life be so much different? Wouldn't we wouldn't we see people, wouldn't we live more harmoniously if we saw each other as spirits and not as people with um egos with egos and different characteristics that uh, as non-judgmental. If
Yes.
we saw people as spirits and we weren't judgmental, wouldn't life be so much better? But then that's probably how we live as spirit. And so that's why we come down to a life of duality to learn these things. Because it's funny I truly believe that we are pure spirit or pure energy, right? And energy doesn't cease to exist. But when we come into the material world and take on human bodies, we forget that we are pure spirit. And I think that's the one message in my book that I'm trying to get across. We are magnificent spirits in a human body. And we go through the veil and forget who we are. And we start believing we are our personalities, our human personalities, with our egos and with free will and the experiences that we have taken on, when in fact we are spirit.
Yeah, 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 we forget that. Yeah, and the other thing is that we are all equal, right? There's this, societal hierarchy, right? That,
Right.
we judge people based on, economics or
And that's
whatever,
man-made.
right?
It's all man-made. And if we can keep that eternal perspective that we are magnificent spirits and we're just having a lifetime, we're just having a lifetime, right? And if we can keep that perspective that that's who we are, then the hardships in this life are not as difficult to go through. If we know that we're going to be with our loved ones again, if we know that the suffering or the struggling that we're going through is just a blip in eternity, it's just a blip in time, right? It's just something that's there for us to grow from.
Yeah, and remembering that we've chosen this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a big one too. I think that people think, I've actually chose this. This is, what I needed to learn in this lifetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing that can be helpful to us too is to see life as a play. Like we are the players in the play, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people call it illusion, right? But also know that we can direct that play. We can direct our lives and make it what we want. And when we have that understanding, it becomes easier. When we know what our purpose is, then, and we work on that purpose, when we get on our path, our chosen path, then we get in the flow. And when we're in the flow, our energy, our vibration raises, and the universe conspires to put things in our way to make it happen. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. 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 And past life regression can do that for you because it can help you identify what that purpose is. Because a lot of times you hear people say that, right? I don't know what my purpose is. Like, why am I
Right?
here? What
Or
is this all
well,
about?
why me? Why am I
Yeah.
going through this? Yeah, we all
Yeah.
have at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. As a part of our life. Yeah. All right. Well, we have just a few minutes left. So let me just ask, is there anything, any thoughts that we haven't covered or anything that you'd like to leave people with in terms of past life regressions?
well, I have to tell you, doing this work has not made me afraid to die. Like, understanding that, you know, we're not dying. Dying is not a tragic ending. I mean, it's hard for the people who are left behind, but for yourself, you don't have to be afraid to die. You're just returning home. And you've done this many times before. And most of us will probably be doing it again. And there's nothing to fear.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Marilyn. What a great discussion to have. So we know people can find you on Spiritual Canada.
Right.
Tell us where else people can connect with you.
Okay, I have a website, which is youareasoul.ca, not .com.ca. I also have a Instagram, Lifetimes 444. And if you just send me an email, youareasoul@hotmail.ca, I'll respond right away, and I can work online. I can, virtually. So I have worked with people all over North America. And all I can say is I love this work. I love working with people. Some people come out of curiosity. Some people come out of necessity. Like some people will say, well, that was interesting. And some people will say, this has changed my life. This has, just opened me up. And now I know why I'm the way I am, and how I'm going to go forward. And it's nothing to be afraid of. Like, we actually laugh. We can laugh with your spirit guides. It's so personal, and it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just really, I never thought I would be doing something like this as a younger person. But I guess I planned it in a pre-life.
Yeah, 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 and it's a very gentle experience that
It is.
what I experienced. People,
Mhm.
yeah, don't need to be afraid of it. Exactly.
And if you want to come, if you want to read the book, um, it might help you to know what you can experience, or you just come in not expecting anything and see what happens, and that works too. Um, but if anybody has any questions about anything, they can feel free to email me, or email me, and we could set up an appointment just to talk before you would even consider having one. I
Okay.
get that all the time.
Yeah. Consultation. Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much, Marilyn.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been fun.
My thanks to Marilyn Kaufman with You Are a Soul for being my guest today, and thank you for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to us on the Spiritual Canada YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Spotify or iTunes. Until next time, I'm Kathy Upper, and this is Uncovering Spirituality.